Chowder's first season had some pretty ridiculous recipes, but it's nothing compared to season 2. Here we learn the backstories of the catering crew, like how Chowder and Kimchi first met, or Mung's tragic backstory, along with some hilarious jokes and fourth wall breaks I see referenced even to this day. But first, let's address the ongoing controversy from last episode. Now, I said I thought deviled eggs seemed pretty gross, but a lot of y'all said I was wrong, like just objectively wrong. So let's try some in the fashion of any good food reviewer.
As you can see, they got some paprika on them. They almost look like Peeps. And you know, not to start a food argument every video, but Peeps are probably the worst candy to ever exist. I don't know if I should eat it in one bite or eat half of it. I'm scared. It's gonna... But with a soft yolk and a little bit of spice. That's actually really good. I'm actually sorry. Genuinely sorry.
Anyways, last time we covered Chowder's first season, which actually extends to episodes 14 through 20, which we'll start with today, before moving on to the official season 2. This block has made a couple of big fan favorite episodes like Schnitzel Quits and the Apprentice games, and I've even made a couple Chowder tasting menus for each season. Episode 14 starts with the Bruised Blue Nana, in which Chowder and Panini take care of the titled Bruised Blue Nana together. It's kinda your typical Chowder Panini hijinks, though Panini's a bit more insane than usual, and is willing to do whatever it takes to get her way. I feel like this episode's where Panini starts to lean into being a little more insane to get her way, whereas before she was just kinda sweet and chill. It was actually Chowder that would act kinda crazy to prove they're not together, which was where a lot of the humor comes from. My biggest question with this episode has to do with the ending, in which the Bruised Blue Nana's mom shows up to take the baby back, which makes me realize that a lot of the food in Chowder is sentient. So why is an adult Blue Nana a citizen of Marzipan and her baby's sold at a fruit stand? What exactly is the rights of living food in Marzipan? Are they citizens or food? In the lead farfel, Schnitzel has a training montage in order to lift this giant lead farfel, which is a small pellet-like pasta typically used in Ashkenazi Jewish cuisine. If you've seen farfel, you've probably seen it labeled as egg barley in the US, and this is one of the few references this season to greenblatt growing up in a Jewish household. It's always fun to look up random foods I'm not really familiar with, cause the more obscure they are, the more seamlessly they blend into the world of Chowder. This episode kinda reminds me of the episode of Teen Titans where Cyborg comes to terms with his limits and his mechanical body. While that episode was really cool and sweet, the funniest part of the entire show might be the fact that Cyborg was talking smack in a fighting game and his opponent just pulls up at the tee and beats him up. They really let everyone know where they were at all times. Honestly, that's kinda aura. Schnitzel doesn't have too profound of a reason for wanting to set the record of tossing the pellet. I find myself a little bit uninvested in the plot as a result, but it's a fun episode that dives more into Schnitzel's mind and emotions. We even see Mung Dahl embracing his character design origins, acting as Schnitzel's Yoda. In the 1,000-pound cake, Chowder and Schnitzel have to deliver a really heavy cake to a customer before sundown, or else his order's free. Sundown might just be the most vague deadline you could ever make. Like, yeah, your order got here 5 hours after you ordered, but there's still a little sliver of sun on the horizon, so you gotta pay. The customer here takes full advantage of these rules, cause he lives on top of a giant Chowder and Schnitzel have to trek up to even attempt this delivery. The craziest part is that after Chowder and Schnitzel make this trek up the mountain, thanks in large part to befriending the giant, the customer just doesn't open the door and waits till the sun goes down. Thankfully, the giant sticks up for his new friends and just walks across the planet to avoid the sundown, but it's a fun episode. Kinda like Chowder's version of that SpongeBob episode where they deliver the pizza.
This one's on the...
Rat Sandwich once again features Ruben the pig that ran the cooking school earlier in the season, played by Paul Rubens, aka Pee Wee Herman, rizzing up truffles. Nah, that's crazy. There's just no world where Ruben has someone panting like a dog in front of their husband of 450 years. Like, I'm out. I'm done. Rubens threatens to blackmail the catering company by exposing his sandwich has a rat in it, which is just his little rodent con artist pal he's been scamming people with. This episode's probably a reference to the infamous lawsuit revolving around a falsified thumb found in a cup of Wendy's chili in 2005. The thumb in question is believed to have been given to the perpetrator's husband in an industrial accident, which makes this one of the most unique attempts of workers' comp I've ever seen. This scandal likely came to light around the time of Chowder's early production, and funnily enough, next episode's end credits showed Chowder wearing a wig of what seems to be the Wendy's hairstyle. Maybe they didn't want to throw this end segment on the Rat Sandwich episode to avoid Wendy's getting too suspicious of what Chowder was cooking. This episode's end segment's pretty wild for its own reasons.
You're dead to me.
Chowder loses his hat is another classic episode where Chestnut takes his hat, believing it's a vacation home, which I guess is more accurate than thinking Mung Dahl's a table. Chestnut's willing to trade the hat back to Chowder, but he's gotta get Chestnut a briefcase, which he thinks is a hydrofoil. To get the briefcase, he's gotta matchmake this dog with the pepper spray saleswoman, and to do that, he needs to first get her dog some mountain spring water. The rest of the episode's a convoluted this for that series of trades, which is super catchy.
And that for this, and these for those, and those for these.
Rats.
And that for that, and these for that, and this for this, and these for those.
Rats.
My favorite part of this entire bit is that there's multiple times where Chowder gets his hat back, but he's gotta trade it to someone else to complete the other trades so he can get his hat back. In the end, Chowder and Chestnut compromise to make his hat a mobile home Chowder can wear, as long as Chowder never makes noise ever again, which interrupts the end of the episode dance sequence. Like, look at this. Mung Dahl knew he was hitting that. In Brain Grub, Mung tries to train Chowder's brain on account of his scatterbrain shenanigans, messing up the business. Looking back, I feel like I never realized just how apparent it was Chowder probably has an attention deficit disorder, and maybe some sort of eating disorder, though they lighten it a little by just calling it scatterbrain. When Chowder eats the Brain Grub, it makes him so smart, he realizes they're in a cartoon. This breaking of the fourth wall pales in comparison to the ones we'll get in a few episodes, but it is pretty funny. Schnitzel Quits is a 24-minute special showing Schnitzel quit the catering company due to the constant disrespect and even working for Endive, which is like workplace harassment's final boss. Endive even tries to marry Schnitzel, revealing to us that Schnitzel actually has a girlfriend, this pink rock. In CH Greenblatt's blog, Nerd Armada, he reveals a lot about Schnitzel, like the fact he was originally gonna have a wife we'd never see, but it's more fun to think of him as the swinging bachelor. Schnitzel's life's deliberately kept a bit more reserved to push the idea that he's your chill coworker that clocks in, gets shit done, and clocks out, which always made him a pretty endearing character to me. Like, I appreciate that. You also may remember from last video, a big part of Endive's backstory is her being stood up at the altar in the past. The episode's pretty wacky, and I like that there's a legitimate struggle for what Schnitzel should do. Like, it all feels really real, though the most unrealistic thing to happen here is when a puppet of creator C.H. Greenblatt himself descends from the heavens, erasing Schnitzel's shackles and telling his own creation that his friends need him and appreciate him. They're like a found family, and it's genuinely so sweet to think of the moments they've all shared together. Though I have one burning question. What on earth does CH's shirt say? I flush the ladies? I full house the ladies? My best guess would be I heart the ladies, though at best it seems like this would read as I hearts the ladies. While this episode was in production, one of the frequently asked questions on CH's blog asks why Schnitzel stays with Mung, Truffles, and Chowder if they make his life hard, which CH answers, they're like his family. Your family can drive you crazy, but they still love you. In episode 18A, The Broken Part, Chowder needs to get a spare part for their pizza machine, but Chowder's still pretty pretty scatterbrained and forgets what he's supposed to get. Chowder throws his money down a wishing well to remember what he needs, though he might have been better off without his memory, cause look at this shopkeep's face when he learns Chowder has no money. Wow. That is a demon. Mung also gets really angry, but his position's a little more understandable, like Chowder's messing with his business and his money. Quite regularly, actually. But can you imagine just forgetting your wallet at this guy's shop? In order to get money, Chowder undergoes a training montage, which seems like a lot of work for just painting himself silver and becoming a street performer. And when Chowder finally gets money, the pizza leg thing gets sold to a goblin, who Chowder steals the machine from and subsequently breaks it, ending the episode with Chowder and his new street performer friends all making the pizza together by hand. The city of Marzipan has some really interesting diversity, like you have bear rabbit creatures, mammoths, pixies, goblins, rock monsters. I think diversity is a big part of good cuisine and markets, and Marzipan has always felt like some kind of cultural hub to me. There's also been rumblings of some great food war that took place, with CH himself even saying that's the reason why we don't see Chowder and Panini's parents, though this comment could very well be in jest, especially when you consider he also confirms Schnitzel dies in Infinity War, so, you know. In the Meech Harvest, Mungdal has to confront his past trauma with the fruit, animal Meeches, which viciously attacked Mung for years in the past. When they attack Schnitzel and Chowder, Mung confronts his fears and rescues his friends, winding up in an iron lung. Though I guess at least he still has lungs, unlike Schnitzel. They also get a delicious mincemeat pie, which sounds so delicious, I've decided to make this the entree for the Season 1 tasting menu. Thank you for dining with Chef 2D tonight. For a starter, we have your choice of gazpacho or chowder, depending on whether you're feeling your soup hot or cold. Follow this up with a puckerberry, which is sure to cleanse your palate. After that, our main course will be the mincemeat pie, based off a mincemeat pie. Mincemeat can actually be with or without meat, funnily enough. And for dessert, we have thrice cream or burple nurples. In case you got some food stuck in your teeth, we even have some floss berries, the focal point of our next episode, Banned from the Stand. In this episode, Gazpacho and Mung get into a squabble over the ripeness of Gazpacho's floss berries, leading to Mung and eventually the rest of Marzipan getting banned from the stand. Gazpacho goes a bit crazy with the ban hammer, like he'd make a great Reddit mod, but I'd rather take this time to look at Gazpacho's end credits puppet that premiered last episode, because look at this dude. He's massive and fluffy. This is an awesome puppet. The second half of this episode, Cream Puff Hands, has Chowder getting banned from the kitchen on account of his giant cream puff hand. I feel like this is a reference to One Piece and Luffy's third gear, which premiered in the One Piece anime a little over a year before this episode. Chowder tries to use his new hand powers to help others, but his hand continues to grow, eventually leading to this big shonen fight against Mungdal, and no pun intended, Mung's got hands. My least favorite part of this episode has gotta be the ending, in which Chowder gets nauseous and says he's gonna Ralph. I don't know why, but I just can't think of a grosser term if I tried. No offense to anyone named Ralph that might be watching this video, but something about the consonant blend and context is just nasty. Also, this end credit segment features the cursed Panini puppet I showed off last time, and her design just doesn't translate very well to 3 dimensions. Maybe it's her fangs, or her expression, or this odd ridge on the back of her head, but yeah, it's just kinda odd. In an older Rebel Taxi podcast featuring CH Greenblatt, the creator accredits Chowder's combination of mixed media to Sesame Street, which featured a bunch of different art and animation styles, including puppets. Now, our last episode of the official Season 1 is The Apprentice Games, which might be the most popular episode of Chowder, according to your comments on my community post a few weeks ago. Similar to the Sniffle Ball episode, I love animations about sports and competitions, and while the Sniffle Ball episode featured a rivalry between Chowder and Gorgonzola, here we see the two team up in the Apprentice Games, with Mungdal bribing Chowder to win so he can get the ultimate thrice cream. What do y'all think this thrice cream tastes like? To me, it looks like blood orange, chocolate, strawberry, and blueberry, though these rhinestone sprinkles could taste like anything, even rhinestones. We talk a lot about the mysterious 4th flavor of ice cream in Codename Kids Next Door, which I definitely would want to try more, but this looks good. Chow and Gorg are so bad, their masters throw them down the river and take their places in the apprentice games, which is kinda crazy. Like, Gorgonzola almost drowns. He's kinda like a Charmander in which his flame can't go out, though I don't think Gorgonzola's flame is tied to his livelihood, but as an apprentice candle holder, it would be pretty bad if he let the flame go out. We also meet Gorgonzola's candle holder master, Still-In, who's portrayed as like an angry alcoholic. Like, name a character in fiction with a sadder backstory than Gorgonzola, a little green rat with candle wax burning on his head at all times. At one point we get to see the stadium for the apprentice games, which is really funny, cause we got a soccer field with the goals right next to each other. I can't imagine much besides a goalie one-on-one here, though I think they kinda cooked with the football field design. I think the field widening the closer you get to the end zone is actually kinda interesting. Would be pretty cool to see in real life. We learn the apprentice games are apparently a prestigious competition being judged by this queen, who I presume is a human, along with Still-In, and even Pate, which just gives me more questions about what's going on in the world of Marzipan. Though I guess that should be the least weird creature in this universe. Pate is the dance master to his apprentice Ceviche, with the term pate originating from the French paste, referring to its texture as a mixture of seafood, poultry, meat, and vegetables. Though I most commonly associate pate as duck liver. Pate's apprentice Ceviche derives his name from the Peruvian dish featuring fish and shellfish marinated in citrus. I love ceviche, especially as a little refreshing dip to have with some chips, and the character is pretty funny too. A lot of people seem to think Ceviche is a girl, maybe on account of his slightly high-pitched voice and purple hair, so hey, if you learned something new today, you should like the video. Thanks. The episode ends with Chowder and Gorgonzola making their way back to the competition and singing a song that's so bad the queen just cuts the sandbags to her hot air balloon and flies away. And whenever I watch this, I get so scared she's gonna chop her own nose off, which seems extremely graphic. But I don't know, a bear sliced Mung's face off earlier in the season, so anything's possible really. The competition doesn't really end, but rather is halted when Pate and Ceviche leave because of how deranged everyone's become, and how they missed the original purpose of these games. I honestly feel bad for Pate. He's like the only sane character in this whole show most of the time, and you can tell he's quite the enlightened individual. Like, just look at how they exit stage. So that's how season 1 of Chowder ends, but before we get to season 2, there's some really cool notes about how the art and animation change. In CH's blog, he shows Chowder's design progression from the pilot to season 1 and to season 2 and beyond. The most notable difference in Chowder's design has gotta be his head growing both taller and wider. The design philosophy and psychology here suggests Chowder to be a fat kid. As storyboard artist Clay Morrow puts, everything touches. While this design is pretty cute, CH describes it as being stiff and a mess to animate, though credit to the animators at Chowder, they could have fooled me. I think the animation has always looked pretty dang good, even in season 1. More importantly, CH asked a question that kinda changes how I look at Chowder's design, if not character design as a whole. Where's the focus? They bring the focus to Chowder's face by expanding his head and shrinking his body and hat a tad, naturally leading our eyes much more to his face, subconsciously conveying to the audience he's a kid with chubby cheeks. I personally like season 1's design a little bit more, but I think 2 is objectively the best. While Chowder's most prominent feature may be his cheeks, Mung Dahl's most prominent feature is his nose. As we see, it gets way bigger as the show goes on, and similar to Chowder, his final design proportions shift way more from his body to his head and neck. Mung's face looks a lot better too, as they shrink down his ears and cleverly combine his eyes and glasses into one circular shape with thicker outside lines to represent the glasses frames. Mung also has this little bump on his nose that gets removed through his redesigns, as it was creating a lot of tangents on his face, similar to Chowder's dimples, which you might have noticed disappeared. Lastly, Mung Dahl's mustache curves out a little lower and longer now, providing balance to the design. When I think of Mung's design evolution, balance is the #1 term I would use. Schnitzel's design doesn't really change much, but funnily enough, his texture got replaced because his original design looked a little too much like hair as opposed to rock. But yeah, overall, I love the art style of Chowder a ton. When I first started learning digital art, I always wanted to make mask textures like Chowder. CH has the high quality images of the show's textures on his blog, so for the season 2 video, I actually wanted to mess with having a little Chowder-esque shirt. It's pretty simple to emulate, and kinda goes to show just how much skill went into the character design of the show to make their style so distinct. So moving on to the first official episode of season 2, episode 21, the Arborians, the Chowder crew plant this big tree to extract syrup from, with this big, vaguely Eastern European tree named Arbor bringing in his family, who all take over Mung's kitchen. Honestly though, Mung kinda deserves this. Like, who designs a broom closet that only opens from the outside? What are you scared of? The brooms breaking out? Truffles tries to marry this random tree, and it's like, she's been married to Mung for 450 years and leaves for a random tree she's known for all of 5 minutes. And Truffles, as a friend, that dress is not it, girl. You look like a tampon. In the garage sale, Chowder has a hard time letting go of his junk, like the first spoon he ever ate thrice cream with, and it's actually kinda sad, with Chowder becoming a textbook hoarder. The definition of hoarding disorder, according to Mayo Clinic, is an ongoing difficulty throwing away or parting with possessions because you believe that you need to save them. In this episode, Chowder specifically says he has to save these objects, even rescuing the lampposts because they lay his way at night and he thinks Mung's gonna take them. It ends up being sorta sweet as Chowder watches his stuff float away, as Mung reassures him his friends and family are more valuable than any worldly possessions. Though this sentiment's quickly interrupted by today's end credits, which is just Gazpacho and Chowder speaking exclusively through burps.
Mother never lets me do this at home. Oh, really?
It makes me want to Ralph. Sorry. Moving on, Panini runs for president when the current kid president, which is a little JFK, just mysteriously runs off, never to be seen ever again, likely referencing his untimely fate. This episode aired a week after Obama was elected president of the United States and was likely timed to air right around this time. Still kind of a crazy reference to just have like this JFK though. Gorgonzola hypnotizes Chowder into running for president and tries his hand at typical political stunts like kissing a baby, which leads to a terrifying yet hilarious stop-motion segment.
Break it up!
It's the fuzz!
There's a debate later between Chowder and Panini where political mudslinging takes place both figuratively.
Well, at least I'm not a girl! Slanders!
I mean, she is, but you know, slander, and literally, with mud. This debate doesn't even matter in the end, because the mini JFK comes back after swatting the fly he chased down the whole episode. Like, bro, Lil Bush is down the hall. What's this little human doing in the Chowderverse? Also, where's the food? It's been a minute since they've cooked. Y'all complained about me not cooking enough last video. What about Chowder? In 22B, Chowder's babysitter, you'd think Gazpacho would be like the fun uncle type, but he's actually really depressing and tells Chowder to sleep as much as possible, because that's how he avoids the sadness of his own life. Chowder hides around the house from Gazpacho, who believes he accidentally just ground up Chowder in the meat grinder, giving us this really scary little demon meat monster Chowder.
What am I gonna do? Hey, I wonder if they'll notice.
Oh, they'll notice.
Ignoring that, Gazpacho believes Chowder is some vengeful spirit he needs to exercise so he can go beyond to the other side. In order to do this, they need a big toilet, which Endive has, because she's big. That's big with 2 G's. Why does Endive have sandpaper next to the toilet? Why does Endive have sandpaper next to the toilet? Endive's like randomly giant here, and I find it really interesting they change her scale in like every scene of the show where they see fit. I credit this flexibility and spontaneity with her design to the fact the show was written through storyboards instead of scripts, similar to a show like SpongeBob or the Powerpuff Girls. So when they want to design a scene revolving around Endive, there's generally a lot more freedom to how they can draw her, since these artists are both writing and drawing what's going on. The fire breather starts with the Chowder crew making these flamin' hot peppers, which are so hot, they make Schnitzel say something other than Rada.
Rada, 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 rada. All right, Rattle.
Every time Chowder opens his mouth, he breathes fire, which is truly unfortunate since this is the first time they cook all season, and they need Chowder to help with their recipe of the episode, a barbershop quartet souffle. This references the trope that noise will cause a souffle to deflate, which I can say from my limited culinary experience that this seems to be pretty exaggerated, and souffles collapse because of the hot air escaping once the souffle leaves the oven. Though that leads me to the question of the video, why do they call it oven when you oven the cold food of out hot eat the food? Apparently that panel is a lie. It actually says, and now we'll bake it for 1 hour at 375 degrees. With the actual joke of this comic being that Garfield eats a bunch of the raw lasagna, so when it comes out of the oven it's way smaller than expected. Which is really weird in its own right. Like, I get that Garfield wants to eat, but why would he eat raw lasagna? That's kind of disgusting. Anyways, my favorite part of this episode, and part of why I love Chowder so much, is just how focused Mung Dal was in this scene. Like, as bad of an idea as it might be to have Chowder in the kitchen when he breathes fire, look at how careful Mung was this entire time.
Now, to make the souffle rise, everyone has to open their mouth as wide as possible. Except for you, Chowder. It isn't rising. Everyone open wider. Except Chowder. Not you, Chowder. Sing louder. Except Chowder. It's working. All together now. Wider. Open wider. Except Chowder.
After ruining the kitchen, Chowder goes to live among dragons, giving us this crazy musical montage parodying the song Holy Diver by Dio. It's really one of the only musical sequences in Chowder that sounds good, though most of the others so far have been kinda bad on purpose.
No man can understand the power of the dragon is in my hand. I mean chest. Fire heart.
Chowder's flames are too crazy even for these dragons, so he returns home, only to find Mung replace Chowder with his new apprentice, Powder. I like this little three-pronged hat. It's a pretty shade of red, though I do wonder if this is actually just a uniform they give out, or if this guy kinda stole Chowder's drip.
You're back.
The Flying Flingerlingans has Chowder join the circus, where he is actually a decent performer. It's kinda cool to see Chowder find something he's passionate and good at. Like, sure, he loves food, but there are times I wonder whether he loves cooking, or if he just loves eating. Because again, not much cooking this season. Hey Hey, It's Knishmas is Chowder's Christmas holiday special, starting with a really cute stop-motion sequence reminiscent of the Rankin Bass Christmas specials. We actually see Gorgonzola's apprenticeship in action, being held up as a festive Knishmas candle. Chowder really wants this electric broccoli trimmer with detachable and non-electric cauliflower trimmer for Knishmas, but probably won't get one because Mung can't make proper gingerbread house, and is too proud to buy one from Endive. We see Knish Kringle is not only passing over the kitchen, but destroying it because he doesn't like any of their past offerings, which is crazy. Gorgonzola and Panini help Chowder in his plan to dress as Knish Kringle and eat Mung's gingerbread house so he doesn't feel guilty, which is actually a pretty unique take on a Christmas episode. It would be like if someone dressed as Santa just to eat someone's milk and cookies so they don't get sad. I guess that would also mean that in the past Santa gets mad and destroys houses when he doesn't like the milk and cookies, but that's another story. The real Knish Kringle, this creepy caterpillar thing, is so touched by Chowder's thoughtfulness, he even regurgitates an electric broccoli trimmer with detachable and non-electric cauliflower trimmer.
A present? An electric broccoli trimmer with detachable non-electric cauliflower trimmer!
This episode has a big reanimated special on YouTube you should check out, and overall is a fun episode to watch every December. Moving on to Chowder's catering company, Chowder wants Mung to eat this burger, which I will not be making, though Chowder is somewhat convincing in getting Mung to try it.
Please?
No, Chowder.
Pretty please.
What the?
The what the always kills me. Chowder finds success making a fancy restaurant for fuzzballs, which kinda reminds me of the scribbles from Foster's Home, but just look at the restaurant. Can you imagine sitting up on one of these tables on the shelf? Like, what a view you'd have. I kinda understand why the fuzzballs hand Chowder a frying pan to try to take out anyone that tries to seize the restaurant. Chowder's gotta choose between his friends and his business, and ultimately decides to free his friends, while showing he might just have what it takes to run his own catering company someday. The very thought of which causes Schnitzel to jump into a barrel down this bottomless pit called the Wonder Hole. You'd think they'd build a fence around it or something. Marzipan's just full of wonders. In the catchphrase, Chowder and Mung go to see this famous chef Hollandaise, obviously named after Hollandaise sauce. The chef doesn't seem that impressive, like he basically just throws vegetables on a tray, but he has a catchphrase. His performance is so good, Chowder lays an egg, and then randomly ages up for like 5 seconds, which is like one of the creepiest gags in the whole show. So Mung gets pressured into proving catchphrases a chef does not make, even dueling this chef, but Chowder gets so worked up trying to make his own catchphrases, he unknowingly ends up just dropping a bunch of marzipan slurs that just throw everyone off. In The Hot Date, the police chief, Dog Hoagie, has a blind date that gets interrupted by Endive's report of who filled her pool with pudding. These really are some of my favorite characters in the show. I don't know if they'd really work as their own show, but funnily enough, this one bird looks like the predecessor to Harvey Beaks, a show actually made by C.H. Greenblatt after Chowder. I could give you 20,000 guesses, and you'd never guess who shows up to the blind date. It's Miss Bellum from the Powerpuff Girls. She's actually here for a separate blind date, so Hoagie gets a ride from Endive. Honestly, kind of a cute couple, low-key.
That's a nice perfume you're wearing.
It's bacon.
Bacon!
Now moving on to Shopping Spree, this is one of the most notorious episodes of Chowder, if not just cartoons in general. The guys go to the mall to buy a bunch of stuff, and they even go to Hot Issues, which is clearly referencing Hot Topic, at least in name, which is pretty funny. Like, I vividly remember having a little Chowder pin on my bag I got around this time of this episode from Hot Topic. Now they end up spending all the money, and you know what that means.
No money means no animation.
What are we gonna do?
Rather.
No, we are not going home. We've got to save the show.
But where are we gonna get the money to pay for it?
It was so jarring for me to learn Chowder's voice actor, Nicky Jones, was so young at the time of recording the show. I don't know why, I think I never assumed he was an actual child, but I honestly think this makes his performance that much more impressive. Like, the energy and variety he delivers every line with is truly one of my favorite voice performances in a cartoon. Next week I'll be talking about Flapjack, and you may be shocked to learn despite how young Flapjack sounds, he was voiced by the creator, Thurop Van Orman. So we got a really funny dichotomy of voice actors between these two shows. Anyways, Troubles finds out her money's missing and rents out the guys to Endive until they can pay back what they took. I wonder if they can voluntarily just do another IRL car wash instead. Probably beats working for Endive. Party Cruise is easily one of my favorite episodes this season, in which Mung Daal wants to teach Chowder how to fish in order to be a man. Unfortunately, the boat available is a party cruise from Ruben, who's actually a lot of fun here. I'd love to be on this cruise. Maybe my favorite gag of the whole season has the cruise goers doing yoga when all of a sudden their shins snap out of their legs and hit Mung on the back of the head. I like how this extreme injury doesn't even faze them. It's almost as if they snap their legs out of spite and these bones are freed from their shackles, with their first order of business being to smack Mung. One of my favorite episodes of the season so far. This is also where the angry, deranged Mung Daal face comes from. In Wonton Bomb, we find Mung's old cooking master, so this dude must be like the best chef ever. Mung Daal wants nothing to do with his older master, Lo Mein, which we learn is because of Mung Daal's childhood trauma, where he had an embarrassing failure of wonton bombs that got everyone sick. Seeing the kid version of Mung Dal is so funny. Like, he's this little suave womanizer, but Lo Mein put him in such an unfair position and is overall pretty cruel. Chowder and Mung go back to the past via Lo Main's flashback bubble and actually rewrite history, with Mung Dal now being a legendary chef, and the space-time continuum so screwed up, C.H. Greenblatt himself shows up as the cartoon implodes upon itself. I'd argue that's not as big of a fourth wall break as the car wash, but still pretty crazy. In the next episode, Big Hat Biddies, Truffles wants to join the Big Hat Biddies, which feels so weird saying, like, don't call them biddies, bro. It's kinda interesting to see Truffles show some vulnerability and wants to belong to this community, but I also don't care that much about Truffles or this episode, so it's just like, eh. The Deadly Maze has Chowder meeting the catering company's old apprentice Gumbo, who seeks his revenge on Mung for kindly critiquing a recipe he made as a young apprentice.
Finally done. I presented it to that idiot for tasting.
Wow, good job. I know. But it could use a little more kooky-wacky lamb spice.
What?
Similar to Powder and Chowder, Gumbo also has a similar outfit, further suggesting this is indeed a uniform. The rest of the episode has Chowder and Gumbo trekking through this deadly maze. Among the many traps in this maze, the worst of them all is the Boom Shaka Shaka hatchling.
Trap! Oh, for the love of Mike, make it stop!
This thing is legitimately creepy. Like, in the Courage video, we talk about how all the CGI monsters were by far the scariest in the show, and benefited greatly from the uncanniness of CGI. Well, the same applies to Chowder. The Boom Chaka is a reference to the Ooga Chaka dancing baby sensation from the drama Ally McBeal. Believe it or not, you've probably seen this before.
This feeling deep inside of me.
In Kid Schnitzel, Chowder and Mung are especially annoying, so much so, Schnitzel kinda age regresses into a wacky, skateboarding, electric guitar playing teenager. It's actually, like, kind of upsetting, but we see Schnitzel can grow hair, as opposed to being a hairless rock creature. Or a rockless hair creature, as the pilot episode's textures may suggest. Chowder and Schnitzel then turn into babies to avoid work by themselves and just go to a creepy bad baby pound. This episode is weird. Where's the food? And Gazpacho fights back. Gazpacho gets a crazy customer named Rosemary who takes Gazpacho's food without paying.
What?
You forgot to pay for that. $6.
I didn't forget. I said I'll take £4, and I took them.
Hold on, is she cooking here? She said she was gonna take them, and she did. They try to get Schnitzel to act as security for this menace, but his rock arm disintegrates when he tries to chop her. Like, she's a demon. What could she possibly be made of? In order to stop Rosemary, Chowder and Gazpacho go through a meditation journey where an eagle teaches them to find their inner strength, which turns out to be annoying Rosemary until she confesses her love for Gazpacho and runs off, awkwardly ending this episode.
Still single?
Yeah, still single.
Our next episode is pretty unique and brings back Endive and Panini studying for the BLTs. It took me a lot longer than I'm proud of to realize these are supposed to be the SATs, probably because Chowder keeps saying bacon, lettuce, tomato, and making me hungry. The test proctor is Chestnut of all people, and I cannot imagine a single person I'd want to grade my paper less than the man who mistakes everything for everything. So let's tune into what object he'll mistake for something else completely different today.
Dink-a-lee, dink-a-loo. Chestnut wants no noise from you. Now, everyone pick up your refrigerators so we can begin.
If Chowder fails the BLTs, he'll get banned from cooking, so Mung tries his darndest to get the test canceled.
Quick! The show's been canceled! I need everyone to get out as soon as possible!
Remember that line for next video. In the end, we learn the criteria for passing the test is just showing up and having enthusiasm for cooking. And the papers were just Chestnut's homework for night school. I guess a kid would test better than Chestnut. Like, if he thinks Mung Dal is a table, I have a hard time believing he can even read. In The Trouble with Truffles, Truffles scares all the customers away with her shrill voice, so she gets a dial on her head that calms everyone, including Schnitzel, who's now so calm he can actually speak clearly now.
Yeah, I'm so calm. Now the audience can finally understand me. Yo, my name's Schnitzel. All right!
So what I've picked up is the reason we can't understand Schnitzel is because he's so tense. He also grows his hair back here, like when he regressed into a teenager, making me feel even worse for this poor, stressed out rock monster. I always forget Trouble is voiced by Tara Strong. I don't know, I just feel like a big critique I hear is that a lot of her characters sound very similar, and are a bit distracting in just how obvious it is that Tara's voicing them. But I wouldn't have guessed this angry old pixie also voices Ben 10, Timmy Turner, and Bubbles. Like, I gotta give it up, that is range. In the next episode, Mung Dal directs a dinner theater play, which conceptually is a great idea for an episode. Like, in a season that's had very little cooking, a dinner theater might be one of the most relevant avenues to explore within the world of catering. They kinda try to play this episode like a murder mystery within a murder mystery, with Chowder trying to solve the murder of Gazpacho's character, since he doesn't really understand that this is a story within a story.
Ladies and gentlemen, and endive.
Dang, got their ass. I'll be honest, I don't think the play is too funny at first, but by the end it's genuinely hilarious, with one of my favorite gags of the season revealing this entire play was a play within a play, with the Chowder cast being portrayed by Marzipan, including Schnitzel's twin brother Schwitzel?
Schnitzel's twin brother, Schwitzel, playing Chowder. Some really tall guy. And last but not least, me. Shrimp's cocktail. Thank you, you've been a wonderful audience.
The next episode, Big Ball, was always one of my favorites, probably because it's another sports episode. Where is the cooking? Big Ball, or its full name.
It's bad luck not to say the whole name. Now let me start over. Field tournament style, up and down on the ground, monja plonja, blonja bonja, ishka bibble babble flabble, doma roma, floma boma, jingle jangle, every angle, bricka bracka, flacka stacka, tooton, rerun, free for all, Big Ball.
Has one main rule, and that's to not score. You might notice one of the teams, the Marzipan Macadamias, just straight up have Mario's hats. I've always loved the funky hat designs in Chowder. On CH Greenblatt's blog, Nerd Armada, he does have a drawing of what looks like an Animal Crossing villager, which may have had a decent influence on Chowder's design philosophy. Like, some of these characters, like this random background character, really look like he's wearing the villager's Viking helmet from the original GameCube game. I've talked to several people who thought the villagers had horns, but apparently the Viking helmet may be a carryover from Animal Crossing's concept, starting out as an RPG. The Big Ball game ends with Chowder being pushed into the goal, which is how you lose the game, but beyond losing, ending this game is really bad, because when you score, this Bowser-like creature holding up the stadium gets up and throws them in the trash. Like, dang, that looks like it hurts. In the brain freeze, Chowder gets a brain freeze and gets sent to this winter ice cube dimension. Honestly, I love the design of this winter world, like the blues and greens and purples and the watercolor textures are so charming. The penguin versions of Schnitzel and Mung show up to save Chowder, and I especially love Schnitzel's penguin design. Like, I'd actually love this for like a penguin cartoon. And the snail car, Mung Dal gets a new snail car, which upsets Chowder since they'd have to get rid of their old car, S-Car-Go. Get it? Like a snail that goes? We know Chowder has a bit of hoarding tendencies, but here I'm completely on his side. Escargot is a living creature, like half vehicle, half pet. What were they gonna do with Escargot? They have a race to determine what vehicle they'll end up with, and the race is fun, but the episode overall feels a little off. It's kinda like the Bruised Banana episode. I'm more distracted by the cruelty of the world of Marzipan and Escargot's fate more than I am entertained by the race. Lollistops is one of the more morbid episodes of the show, with Chowder getting addicted to lollistops, a candy handed out by the dentist, and doing whatever it takes to get more lollistops, even breaking all his teeth. I actually thought it was a pretty good plan, but there's not much a dentist can do if you don't have any teeth. What kind of evil dentist gives out candy anyways? An oath to return. Kind of a genius idea to have like exclusive dentist candy though. Chowder and Gazpacho go to the Toothporium to buy some teeth and a stop motion set of dentures that looks a lot like the biatch from Amazing Digital Circus. Honestly, this episode's a pretty hard watch for me. Teeth evoke a really unpleasant parasympathetic response. The episode ends with Chowder and Gazpacho going to jail, where Chowder ends up loving the prison food, so he has no problem staying here forever and ever.
So beautiful. Oh, Gazpacho, I never want to leave Tooth Jail. Never, ever, 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 ever.
An Endive's dirty secret, the Chowder crew want to use Endive's pool, but she sends her guard dogs after them, which are more people than dog. As they hide in the tree, the guys take a picture of Endive's dirty secret, which sounds so wrong. Like, what could this possibly be? Mung blackmails Endive into letting the crew use the pool, with the rest of the town eventually getting their hands on this and following suit.
I illegally pickle peppers in my parking garage.
I'm the creator of Chowder!
You see, we all have our dirty secrets. We all know that what she did was eat her toe jam with a...
Let your kids watch it.
That's actually rancid. Like, I actually might just stop the video there. No more food. That'll do, Chowder. That'll do. Big Food is another one of my favorite episodes of Chowder, with the title Big Food being a washed-up actress whose career is kind of a combination of the golden age of Hollywood and tabloid cryptid rumors. I very rarely laugh out loud when watching shows or movies, but the hardest I've ever laughed is probably the first time I ever saw Chowder singing What a Wonderful Food.
And drumsticks for Pete. What a wonderful thing.
Something about the sudden shift in style and this extremely goofy expression on Chowder gets me every time. Chowder ends up swallowing Big Food whole, which again brings up some discussions about crimes committed against sentient food, but she is reunited with her old friends, which is nice, I guess. I'm equally concerned about these kidnapped people, as well as what's going on with Chowder's digestive system. Like, how can they stay in here for so long? Paint the Town starts with Chowder getting a montage of no's rained upon him, escaping into the world of the background for some peace and quiet, but not before turning into Michael Jackson first.
It's out my frustrations.
Chowder quickly learns that becoming the ruler of his own world has a lot of responsibilities, and doing what you want is a lot of work. He even gets temporarily replaced by Gazpacho, further suggesting the idea of these lavish cooking uniforms. This episode's really funny and has an awesome style. I definitely recommend this episode as one to check out on your own sometime. The Blackout is Chowder's take on a zombie invasion, with Chowder and Gorgonzola trying to save Marzipan after Chowder causes a blackout from this giant blender. The citizens of Marzipan become zombies, making pointless small talk now that the power's out, which is like kinda funny, I guess. I guess that's what people do when the power goes out, but I have a lot of fond memories of the power going out in the winter as a kid and having a cozy time cuddled up with a blanket and a candle, finally learning what's gonna happen with the cheese touch. Moving on, Chowder rides Mung's prized bicycle from his childhood, which I'm not gonna lie, is actually a pretty cool design. Chowder ends up destroying the bike and blaming Ceviche, since he figured Mung won't get that mad at him. And this ultimately results in a duel between Chowder and Ceviche.
Chowder, I made a sin, but if you don't believe me, well then, finish it. Spoon me. Make it fast.
Chowder confesses he's a liar and stuff, but it's all good, cause Mung bet Chowder would lose this duel, ending up with a brand new bicycle. In the chain recipe, Mungdal gets a chain recipe similar to chainmail that gives him really bad luck, allegedly, like he breaks out in such a bad rash his nose falls off.
Lot of flukies. Or else suffer 100 years of bad luck. Signed.
Mung ends up making the recipe and passing the chain recipe on to Endive, who immediately starts getting bad luck, showing that chain recipes are a vicious, unending cycle. The garden might be one of Chowder's most relevant episodes to the premise of cooking, with Mung showing Chowder all about gardening and where their food comes from. Mung isn't able to make this shmoobarb plant grow, failing to rizz it up, so Chowder basically breaks up with Mung and wants to become Truffle's apprentice now, dressing up like her and playing mahjong and stuff. I'd love to play mahjong with them, and I can even say I would like to have some meveled eggs. In Shaboodles, Endive wants to cook this beefcake Todd, who looks like Aaron Hansen in some odd way.
Shaboodles! Where's the party?
Oh, hi, Mandark. He even plans a whole 80s party to propose to Endive, and look at the fits. These are so awesome, like Mung as Thriller Michael Jackson or Chowder as Bobby Brown, especially goes hard. Endive figures she needs to cook Todd a little longer because she thinks he's ugly, despite everyone loving Todd, and the cooking transforms him into his final form, that being a beautiful cowboy that rejects Endive, prioritizing loving someone who loves the real him. This episode is so odd, but has always been one of the best episodes of the series. It looks great, it's funny, and it's such a far-out plot that really lets all these characters interact more like friends on a sitcom rather than rivals in a cartoon about food. Well, this episode had food. In the next episode, Gazpacho moves in. Gazpacho moves into Chowder's catering just for a few days until he gets back on his feet. We know Gazpacho has an over-controlling mother, and as you'd imagine, he's a pretty overbearing guest. Their plan to get Gazpacho out is by just showing him how annoying he is by duplicating him dozens of times, which, you know, is a really unique and interesting way to show someone the error of their ways.
Mother, what you do there? Could you get me some tea? Hey, you want to hear what I can do with my armpit? No, listen to this.
Can you hear what I'm doing?
No, hey, listen to this.
Can you hear what I'm doing more?
In My Big Fat Stinky Wedding, Kimchi learns he's being forced into an arranged marriage, so Chowder goes with his Stink Cloud pet to meet his Stink Cloud family, who have some pretty fun designs. I like that they all get some sort of accessory. We learn about the first time Chowder and Kimchi met, with Chowder believing he saved Kimchi's life from this alligator. Baby Chowder is actually adorable, and looking at his design, it kind of follows the theory he was given this uniform when he began his apprenticeship and grew into it, I guess. It turns out Chowder didn't save Kimchi, and their family lives in an alligator for some reason, and this blue Chowder lookalike Porridge is actually an undercover cop who's been waiting to arrest this fugitive who's been disguised as the arranged bride for some reason. I'll be honest, this episode has such an interesting concept, and challenging the validity of Chowder and Kimchi's friendship makes for some good drama, but there's just too many factors that don't really make sense to me. It's still a good episode, but it's just not grounded enough for a lot of the setup to hit. I'm not really a stickler for logic in cartoons. I don't need to know why a stink cloud would live in an alligator or why an alligator would just accept this. But overall, the plot is just a little nonsensical to me, but it has really good emotional beats in the story. Apprentice Appreciation Day is an episode celebrating Chowder's apprenticeship, which turns into a rivalry with Endive's soiree. Chowder really looked forward to a strawberry cake, which does this look appealing? I'll let you be the judge. It looks cool, but it looks like too solid. This is either amazing or disgusting. No way this cake would just be alright. Endive pressures Mung into having some crazy party that doesn't even have the strawberry cake, so Chowder runs off to the dock, sharing a genuinely sweet scene with Panini for maybe the first and only time in the entire show. Not a huge fan of this episode, but this scene alone is worth the price of admission, so overall, decent episode. In the grape worm, we see Chowder has a grape worm in his stomach called Jam. The worm is pretty annoying, but in some weird way, he's funny and chill, and I love his voice acting.
Did I just have a baby?
Oh, that is rude. No, I'm not a baby.
Are you a hernia?
No, can't be a hernia. That's crazy.
Then you must mean my inner voice.
What?
He's voiced by Bobby Moynihan, who you may recognize from Saturday Night Live, Panda from We Bare Bears, or most randomly, the love interest from Fallen for You by Colby Calais. A classic song for sure, but the video can be a little bit weird. I mean, I know that's the point.
It's weird because he's not my type at all, but he seemed kind of funny.
So we have one final episode of Chowder to talk about today, but first I want to give a quick shout out to my Patreon and Ko-fi supporters. These videos are made thanks to viewers like you. And if fair to remember, we meet this character Marmalade, this green pig frog girl who actually has great chemistry with Chowder. Panini's naturally angry and possessive about Chowder's new friendship, and Ceviche decides now's his time to swoop in to make Panini love him.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how desperate would you say you are right now?
11!
Oh, yeah.
What? Ceviche's like just as bad, if not worse, than Panini for all the complaints against her. Though I think Panini's biggest offense might be just killing the vibes. Like, they play a lot more into her character as mean-spirited and possessive the more the show goes on. Also, I see people ask if Ceviche is a girl all the time, and like, the only gay characters to exist in this era of Cartoon Network are like the robot from Time Squad, him, and the duck and gator from Sitting Ducks. Though history will say they were just roommates. Man, who remembers Sitting Ducks? Now that's a callback. I gotta subscribe to this guy. Panini doesn't have an angel and devil on her shoulder, rather an inner male who attempts to get her back with Chowder through a duel at the Renaissance Fair. Panini's armor just ends up rusting up, and Marmalade wins the duel by default, but she and Chowder are just friends, cause her heart's set on Ceviche.
I'm not your Chowder! Down, Chowder!
Okay, that was pretty bad. Now our last episode has Chowder and Schnitzel making a delivery to Tofu Town, Marzipan's Asian district, and it's kinda interesting to think Asia canonically exists in Chowder. Like, now I'm wondering where Marzipan is on the globe. We learn Schnitzel has a complicated past with Tofu Town, as he was formerly the bodyguard for the Suki Yakikuza, the Chowder equivalent of the Yakuza, making a play on the Japanese hot pot dish, Sukiyaki. Schnitzel left Tofu Town dishonored after being defeated by the Triad leader, Peking Duck, who speaks completely off his lip sync as a joke/homage to older dubs.
Last time our swords crossed, things did not go well for you. And now, prepare to feel pain like you never felt before.
The first time I saw this episode, I thought it was pretty corny and couldn't really get into it, but upon my rewatch, I actually ended up liking it. The plot's surprisingly deep for Chowder. Like, I've never seen a martial arts movie pit the Yakuza and Triads against each other like this. So why am I seeing it in Chowder? Where's the food? The story turns out to all be an elaborate story within a story told by Chowder to cover the fact he got hungry and ate the delivery. And I've never really been a fan of this trope. Like, why tell me Schnitzel puts on the Kill Bill fit and goes Super Saiyan with a sausage? And then just say, just kidding. Like, just do it. Our puppet segment to end the season is a pizza being uncomfortably pushy, persuading Chowder to eat him. Even though Mung has a note that clearly says do not eat. It even says love Mung. That's so sweet. Now let's wrap this up with season 2's tasting menu. There's actually like a lot less food to pick from this season. Like, I don't want to eat the scary pepper that makes me breathe fire. I don't really want to eat the strawberry cake either. You know what? I think the only food that looks appealing from this entire season might be the wonton bombs, and that like traumatized Mung's whole life and created a time-space continuum shift. So that's it for season 2 of Chowder. There was some crazy fourth wall breaks, character backstories, and overall was just a great time. Thanks a bunch for watching, and I'll talk to you next week. Alright, bye!
No money means...
No